before we start, this discussion panel is a bit of a follow-up to a one we did last year. That it still should be focusing on the overlap of generative AI and digital art, digital design. And as a bit of a reminder, we have Linus here as well, who was panelist a year ago, but online. Now he's here physically, so we were very happy. And I will ask all three gentlemen to introduce themselves, as I don't want to do any mistake. So let's start with Tomáš.
Hi.
Do we have sound?
Do we have sound? Yes, we do.
Yeah, perfect.
I'm based at the Institute of Philosophy of the Czech Academy of Sciences. I'm at a department where we focus, like major part of our activities focused on philosophy of emergent technologies, especially technology ethics. And I also teach at local Academy of Fine Arts. Guess that's enough about me.
Also, I'm going to try to stay short because most of you probably listened to me for about an hour earlier. My name is Linus Ekenstam, and I'm an AI evangelist or enthusiast. I think that's the best way to describe me. And I'm looking forward to talk to these two fine gentlemen. And we're missing a lady on stage now. We're an all-male panel.
Yeah.
We're sorry about that. We'll do better next year.
Unfortunately.
Thanks. My name is Martin. I stand here or sit here as an engineer. Thank you for having me here. I studied computer science, specializing on AI. I worked in multiple companies here, starting with data, big data, data science, and transforming into machine learning and AI technology. So that's what I do.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Last year, the panel was really long. We had a lot of panelists, and there were absolutely no time for any audience questions. So this time, I would like to switch this a bit. And please prepare your questions. You can put them in our Mouvo machine. If you type machine.mouvo.cz/ask, you can just throw up your question. I will see them, all of them here, and I will just pick the best ones. And I believe if you want just to get a question, you can just raise your hand as well when I ask, and we can get you a mic if you just don't want to bother yourself with writing it there. That's also fine.
Let me just say that I'm willing to give up my seat for any female panelist if they wish to replace me. Seriously.
Okay, we can even add a chair. That would be possible as well.
If anyone feels
we tried hard before, but yeah.
If anyone feels like they want to join, it's open, but only for
join.
Women.
Yeah, join.
Yeah.
Sure. I would like to start with a very simple question, and you can all answer. What was the latest usage of generative AI of yours, or what kind of thing have you used last time that was that touched the AI a bit, if there was any?
Right now?
So, yeah, I'm checking now. I'm checking now. Probably this morning at breakfast. So I was checking if it was true. Yeah. So I sat at breakfast and I had some ideas that I wanted to get out, and I was on my phone generating some images of a robot sitting in a field. So yeah, this is the latest use.
All right.
I think it was yesterday evening. I was preparing for this discussion, just conversing with chatbot to extend my ideas and to have another view.
All right. And you, Tomáš?
I guess Linus pointed out earlier in our discussion before we went on stage that I guess subconsciously everybody is using various sorts of AIs and generative AI in particular all the time. They don't realize that. So same for me, but consciously I was using ChatGPT to review some papers recently.
All right. I will just ask the direction if I can get my screen on the projection just for a second. I also want to share mine last usage. Yeah. So I bought this Coca-Cola Zero, which was flavored and called future-inspired flavor, co-created with AI, and it was really terrible. So I do not recommend trying it again. And I've also noticed in the store this, but I didn't dare to try it on mine. So I've been seeing AI tech quite lately, even outside of the tools that we were talking about. And that leads me to my another question is, do you think there's a certain marketing hype around the theme that's driving the conversations in the creative industry? And that it might be somehow more about the hype than the general practical usage?
Sorry, it's funny because we talked about this, right? This question in general, so I think I'll repeat my answer to that. I think there is a fair bit of hype, like with anything, and it's quite helpful to have a bit of a hype to shine a light on things. But I think fundamentally what we're seeing is anything but a hype. This is a paradigmal shift in computer science, like within the field of computer science, that has been going on for decades. And what we're seeing now is the overnight success of decades-long work. And I think it's easy for people to say, oh, it's AI this or AI that, because it's such an easy word to attach to all these things. But we're going to have to be careful, because in these marketing examples, I definitely think there's a hype cycle driving that. It's also easy for people to say, hey, I'm using AI, because they don't know exactly what it is that they're using. To the point where, like, you're using it every day. If you take a photo with your phone, multiple images are going to be taken underneath the hood, stitched together using different machine learning algorithms on your device, and then you see a photo. Same with video. So, yeah, not a hype. I'd say more huge change in how we do computer science.
All right. Any more on the topic? Yeah.
Well, we all see that there is a hype, and I'm quite optimistic about it because it helps us to communicate things that are technical or engineering things to the normal people who don't work with the technology, don't know what's under the hood, but it helps us to teach them to how to use tools, how to enhance their work. So I'm glad that there is a hype, and I feel that it will not vanish, in my opinion, but it will become a normal thing in our lives.
All right. Ask for
I'm
your
not
opinion.
involved in the what did you call that industry? The creative industries. I live in Ivory Tower, so I guess I'm not qualified to comment on that.
Maybe there's one thing to, like, when you say AI, most people see in front of them, they see this Terminator, right? Skynet is taking us. I think this is a hype cycle that has to kind of slowly die down. No, this is not what's going on. Like, we're not going to get machine overlords. So I think AI is a terrible word in that case, where it just paints this picture that's different for everyone based on what you associate AI with. So hopefully we can get rid of the label at some point and just all kind of like, now we're seeing the label because it drives sales, obviously, and it drives kind of talk. But I think fairly soon we will see just regular products. Like Apple doesn't say, take AI photos with your phone. It's a great example. They just say, take photos. It's just there.
Yeah, but it helps also internally. Someone come to you as an engineer in a company, you provide support for not just for IT department or sector, but you support as an engineer whole company. And they come to you because they saw some cool stuff on the internet. They will say, "Wow, we have this technology. Let's do that," and they explain what they want from you to do, and you will realize that, well, it was doable like 10 years ago with the technology, but now with the feel, with the things and tools you can try yourself, touch the tools, people realize that they can do a lot of things, so it helps the hype.
Okay. There was quite a question regarding this topic, I would say, a bit from the audience that says, do you think AI is hype because people are scared of it? And I would like to follow on this one. Do you think that there's a certain process for all the technology or a lot of technology that people are scared in the beginning, then it became settled or it gets into a mainstream use, and we're not in that stage yet for generative AI maybe? And I was listening to a podcast where was John Maeda, who was recently became a director of the Microsoft Design AI initiative, and he mentioned that remembering visiting Paul Rand in 80s, and Paul Rand was quite known for his anti-computer position, and he said that he's never gonna do a graphic design on a computer. And then John Maeda came to his office, and there was a Macintosh, brand new Macintosh on his table, and he asked, like, why Paul, why do you have it on your table? And said, oh, it's wonderful, I now do design with it. So I think, do you think it's just like a natural process, and we're in a like fear stage so far, or what is your opinion on that? Maybe like let's start with Tomáš, if you don't mind.
So should I comment like more generally about that fear, or specifically within creative
up to you.
fields?
Up to you.
Yeah, I think maybe the fear peaked shortly after the release of the latest version of ChatGPT, because I remember even in local press that people there was some poll that found out that something like 65% of Czech population are afraid of artificial intelligences. Like when it comes to like specifically, let's say, technological unemployment, I think, I mean, to some extent that fear is justified, and it. Oops, yeah, and it's interesting how predictions about which industries it would concern primarily. I thought that I remember some predictions roughly 5 short years ago, that mostly people who were in creative fields thought that they were safe from technological unemployment, because I think there was this line that said that if you can describe your job in a simple algorithm, like when you come to work and like whatever you do there before you return home, if you can put that in a simple algorithm, then be sure that your job will be replaced, or that you will be replaced by artificial intelligence in, I don't know, within 5 years or so. So that was 5 years ago, right? But now with these latest advances, it seems that people in creative industries, exactly like graphic design, right, seem to be threatened by generative AI. But then within, I don't know, the last 5 to 6 months, I found out that many, like those few graphic designers that I know are using creatively these latest tools. And so I think hopefully the fear of replacement is gone. And I think that we are headed towards more like a future that I would describe in terms of collaboration than replacement.
Yeah, so I think for me it's two things. So we're all afraid of change. No one likes change except me, because I'm different. I love change. I kind of eat change to breakfast. But it's real. Like, let's be clear. If you ever work with UI design, you've kind of gone through different cycles of using tools. We did UI design early in, let's say, Flash. Then we went to use Illustrator. Then we went to use Photoshop, like tools that are not meant for UI. And then along came different tools like Sketch, and then later Figma. And now we have a bit more to choose from. And going through every of those changes as a designer was horrible, because I had to learn one new tool. And then imagine with AI, where pretty much every tool in your stack either gets new features, gets new subtools, or gets replaced, and you just have to learn new things. It's a tremendous pressure to kind of learn these new things, because you're already invested so much time in your current skill set. So that is one thing that I think people, when they say, I'm afraid of this, that's one thing. And then the other part of this is that mainstream media is not making a really good job at portraying the nuances of artificial intelligence. They're taking the extremes on either side of the spectrum. So either they go for the headlines that I showed you, that you will lose your job, or like, how long will I have my job? Or they go to the other extent where they overly optimize, like, oh, we think that this and this will be solved by AI. And there's no nuance, there's no in between. So by virtue, we're getting this polarized view on potentially one of the most important scientific discoveries in our lifetimes. So that's another thing that I help fuel the fear that we're seeing when polling the mainstream, when polling like a random section of folks.
All right. Anybody wants to take on it, or no? Right, I'm gonna put up another question from the audience, which is, we talk a lot about using generative artificial intelligence, but what about the ethics of using it? Should we have a set of general rules, or should each website, shop, etc. should have their own rules of using it? It's a tough one, but yeah. We have almost 1 hour to answer.
Yeah. You want to go? Can I? Okay. I don't want to be the only one speaking, so look, I think I didn't touch on any sensitive topics. I did say there's a lot of ugliness in the world. So it's very clear, for example, we have Russia doing warfare on Ukraine. That's one example. We have another one where there's a genocide. We don't agree about religion. And if we're going to agree about IP law or ethics around safe use of AI, we're going to have to take a very rigorous, globalized stand. Otherwise, we're just going to fuel more regional conflicts because of the fact that we decide something in Europe, and the parliament in Brussels decides something, but China or Africa or the US do not follow. That's just going to make Europe less desirable for companies to do business. It's going to make Europe less desirable for talent to kind of go to and work. And vice versa, if China were to take a policy or if the US were to take a policy stance. So to solve for ethics and safe use of AI, we need to have some sort of global initiative that people actually listen to. A consortium similar to the United Nations Security Council, for example. But even that is not solving the current crisis that we have, or crises, multiples. So I'm not sure if humanity is capable of setting up the boundaries required for us to have a safe pathway forward. So it's a tricky question. That's why it's also very hard to answer. I'm no politician.
Sure.
Maybe comment on the use of the term ethics here. I'm not sure if there is a clear distinction maybe in the question between ethics and law and maybe other kinds of rules, such as rules of etiquette, right? So all these things are separate from each other, but I think in general, I'm afraid, specifically in Europe, of too much regulation, because then our AIs will not be trained on enough material if we set too many boundaries. So, I mean, yeah.
Right.
I see it also, it's highly connected with law. It's not only ethics, but well, what's new? We need to define what's new with this generative AI, because if I generate an image and put it on my page and state that I'm an author, or state that it's my image, what's new? It was like we need to state it, who is an author, and these hard questions in law. But if I state that it's mine and it's not mine, it was just stolen, and it's nothing new in the world. It was stolen from generative AI. Okay, it wasn't stolen from another author, but it was stolen. So that's not a new state, except that we don't really know at this time who is an author, who owns the output, if it's the company that provides the tool, if it's model itself, if it can be, if it's me who provided an prompt. But we need to define what's new and solve these little problems or smaller problems. But I see it as a hard question or thing to do, because I don't really think that there is a way how to do it internationally or globally, because we have these cultures, religions, and so on, and we have law in every country, different law. So doing this globally, it will be tough task.
I think it's a very deep question. You have a question? There's someone raising your hand? Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe we can get there a mic so we can hear you better. Do we have a mic ready? Or not?
Screen.
Yeah, but then it's not gonna be heard in the recording we're doing. So
true.
if you don't mind, somebody will get you a mic, or
Can we get a mic from AV?
yeah, or not?
Microphone?
Microphone for the audience.
Sleeping?
Or do we have a hand microphone?
For the
there's one on the way. Yeah, and we need it here in the middle.
So this is actually my question, so I want to elaborate it a little bit. When I think about ethics, I don't think about regulation, actually. I think like when we look on the website, we don't know now if it's a picture or if it's a AI generation picture also. I'm working for the city of Warsaw, and we start this process to think about how we can communicate with our citizens what is AI generated and what's not. If some citizens ask question, if we are asked to answer it, or it's any kind of artificial intelligence making the answer, and about pictures and so on and so forth. So it's like more ethic. Like if we like the Weird magazine, if you know, they have like really straight rules. That if they use the pictures, they always have to be described. They never use AI to generate texts, but they may use it to create, I don't know, some titles and stuff like this. So when I think about ethics of using AI, we can use it almost in every area now. So I'm interested in what we should think about, even not to regulate and not rules, but how we as a people should communicate that we use it or not using it, and when we use it. So this is also a question about a website or, I don't know, shop or any other thing. If I should say it's my music or it's music generated by AI, like in your presentation. So thank you.
So I think now it's clear to me, and maybe I'll just ask a follow-up question or comment, and then maybe others, if they want to join and comment on this further. So now I'm understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that you're alluding to the problem of deception, and that seems to me perhaps the key ethical issue in the coming years. It's already a problem, AI and deception. But in the coming years, I think that we have absolutely no idea how how enormous this problem will become. I think that some of the things that you mentioned, I guess, are pointing in this direction, like deceiving users, deceiving customers, and so on, with, you know, whether these images are genuine or computer generated and so on. And I think, as far as I know, there is no idea how to regulate this or how to take care of this in general. But I remember a couple months ago, I was joining an online seminar where this major philosopher, Daniel Dennett, participated, and I mean, he dismissed all these issues, like the kind of fears that sometimes people have because they imagine that AI is something like Terminator and Skynet and so on. That's ridiculous, right? But they forget that there are these real challenges, like this, you know, this enormous problem of deception that we are not prepared to deal with. And his suggestion that apparently he discussed with some people at Google, and apparently they were excited, is that AIs should carry something like watermark. Like, we have money and we have counterfeit money, right? And we can tell real money from counterfeit money because the real money carries a watermark. And he's suggesting that you know, that legitimate use of AIs and their product should carry something like watermark, metaphorically speaking. So that's Daniel Dennett's legacy, I guess, for the future. His assignment to computer, you know, designers to come up with something like that. So I wonder if that would somehow take care of them. And please.
So just last word. I think it could help, but also I think about when we think about the public money, like the Czech, if Czech government should spend money on a graphic designer or should just use AI. I think this is also the ethic question about it.
I had a slide that I put out of my talk. It's like the world is not a zero-sum game. And I think that applies to that question pretty much. What you're saying now, should use AI or an artist? When we can do more, we tend to do more. We're 8 billion or 9 billion people, I tend to forget. We could be 1 trillion humans in the future, right? That would be a need for everything and everyone to do a lot of things, even if AI came into the picture. I want to take it back to your question regarding provenance, though, and whether or not an image or video or something generated has a watermark or not. How do we discern authenticity? I am opposing in Daniel's camp because I've had the opportunity to talk to him too, and I think it's going to be incredibly difficult to watermark, earmark, or determine if a digital goods is made by a machine for two simple reasons. It's going to be a cat and mouse race between someone trying to fix a watermark, someone trying to break it. We see this with DRMs in the past, someone trying to control where in the world something can be played, and then it takes a few weeks and someone solves that. We cannot have that. It's too big of a risk. So if we reverse that and we assume that everything we look at, the default thing that we assume is that it's generated. Any video, any image, any audio, anything that we can get into our retinas, it's made by a machine. Then we have a default assumption that I'm not going to trust this. Then we can put the burden of proof or the provenance on humans. And how to do that is a very hard challenge. It's a very labor-intensive challenge. But if we can solve that and make it effortlessly so that whenever I produce something, whenever I make something, take a photo, make a call, interact, that piece of data gets engraved with some kind of tracker or mention that I did it. This is a lot easier to do because you cannot copy my DNA. You can steal my DNA, but we can also steal credit cards. We can also steal fingerprints. It's a lot harder to do something where the human is a piece of the puzzle. We can do multi-factor authentication. We can do biological authentication. This opens up a whole world of other problems in terms of privacy, ethical, like Big Brother-esque questions. But as a solution to the problem, I think it's a far better one than doing the opposite. And then we can have a lot of debate around how, but...
Interesting.
Okay. Anybody wants to add on that?
I will just briefly add
Yeah.
that there is an initiative in technology to watermark things, but yeah, there will be people or entities that want to create watermarks to be able to distinguish between artificial outputs and natural outputs. But there will be a group of people or organizations, entities that want to break it. And it's hard with ethics because if there is no regulation or a law on that, ethics, natural ethics in quotes, is that if it's hyped like now, I will put it on my page to be cool that it is AI generated and so on. If it becomes not that popular, I will not put it there. So it's up to business, up to companies, up to people to decide now. But if we want to really distinguish things, we will see improvements in technology. Maybe it will be watermarking or some other technology.
Yeah. So I've just put briefly on the screen another question which was kind of connected to the topic as well, that if there should be a source somehow that if I understand it correctly, the image was created with AI, similarly to when you include references from for other resources. Do you think that it would be ethical from you as an author if you put something on your blog, or if you share some artwork you did? Is it ethical to say that you've used generative AI with it, or is it something that you use Photoshop so you don't have to say it, or do you use camera to capture it so you don't have to say it? Is it just how should this be approached? Is this a stupid question?
No, it's not. There are no stupid questions. Again, it comes down to the individual. I think actually, if we look at law as an interesting example, we have a lot of laws already, and most of us live by those laws. We all agree that murder is wrong. We all agree that rape is wrong. We all agree that, things are wrong. And many of the things that you can do with generative AI that is illegal is getting captured by these laws. Theft is illegal, whether or not you used AI to steal something or not. But whether it gets a bit of a misunderstanding, and it also bakes into the sourcing thing, is the way that these algorithms work. If a diffusion model is not a backward search, in many ways it's like somewhat similar to a search, but in many ways it's not. It's more akin to how we function. If I look at 50 images of a banana and I try to draw a banana, do I owe it to the 50 authors that I looked at images to understand how a banana looks? Should I source that in my painting? And if I'm not supposed to source that in my painting, why is AI supposed to source it in their painting? If an AI looks at thousands and thousands of videos and can recall every single video down to the exact pixel, is it the AI's fault that is good at remembering these things? I am not good at remembering that type of data because I'm not a machine. So if we are going down the rabbit hole of creating laws, we're going to have to start creating laws that are different from man and machine. And now we're in very science fiction territory. And this might sound crazy. You might think like, well, Linus is full of crap, like he doesn't know what he's talking about. But it's very realistic. Like if we have laws that we have to abide, we either have to make a decision that the robots need to do the same or the AI need to do the same, or we need to create new laws. The most natural thing for me would be that they just follow our laws, that there are no different laws. And then it becomes difficult because machines are obviously a lot better at understanding and remembering things than we are. So it's a difficult question.
Yeah. Anybody wants to add on that?
Maybe,
Yeah.
just briefly
Yeah,
on
yeah.
this. That's
So,
yeah, go ahead.
sorry. Well, there is a problem in how you use the word AI, artificial intelligence, because in principle, it's neither artificial nor intelligent, depending on how you define intelligence. But it's definitely not artificial. It's based on human intelligence. We need to keep stressing that. And, you know, using, hey, this is just a tool and it's having its own agency. It doesn't have its agency. It responds to an input and uses machine learning techniques to produce an output. And it's been trained by someone who owns computers, who developed algorithms. There are humans behind. You're paying these humans for using these tools. So yes, we can definitely use laws applied to humans on these things. We just act like this is artificial and the human laws don't have a... sorry, lost the word, that this is somehow outside human domain. It is not outside human domain. And, you know, falling for this trap is the main problem here. We have a huge room here full of creatives, and we are telling them to use tools that were built on their back, on the back of their work. And how is that okay? And we pay for this to someone else who somehow, you know, just took, you know, it's on the internet, I can use it. It's basically, I've put my question, so I'll connect to it. It's hugely problematic. There is New York Times suing OpenAI over using their content. So we need to actually be quite reserved about accepting it. I can see that you are very pro-technology, but the way it came to be is hugely problematic and should be observed or judged under human law. Thank you. Sorry. No, there was another question.
I put your question on the screen as well. So, Tomáš was about to say something.
Earlier, I wanted to make this comment that I guess this is connected to my kind of like general stance. The less regulation, the better. Because maybe this is something that connects to art, aesthetics, design area. So there is this older, not too very old, but a somewhat older discussion that certainly precedes these recent developments around generative AIs concerning copywriting, the ethics and aesthetics of copywriting, and because there was this movement, I guess, over the past few decades towards copywriting more and more and more, and I think the prominent view within ethics and aesthetics of copywriting is that too much copywriting inhibits our artistic creation, right? Because in the past centuries, before we embarked on this path towards copywriting everything, artists freely used images and whatever other vehicles of artistic activity. They passed from one to another, and so I think I'm afraid that this is not good for artistic creativity, and if we move on to like regulating too much within this specific field of generative AIs as used for artistic and designing purposes, then it's gonna be inhibiting on. But this is something. I mean. Yeah, if anybody wants to comment, but I had a comment on this notion that artificial intelligence is not really transcending human intelligence or something. Because I mean, all right, so I'll just say it, and then I'll shut up, and you know everybody else will. So anyway, so in order to know a little bit more what I'm talking about, I studied some recent standard textbooks of computer science and artificial intelligence, to the extent that without proper technical background, I can, you know, the part that I can understand. And they often start with some general definition, and they quickly move on beyond this definition, because I guess computer scientists and people in these fields don't need to get bogged down with general definition for too long. But sometimes they say that artificial intelligence is creating systems that can emulate what humans, like cognitive tasks that humans do. So that would support the view of the gentleman who made that comment earlier, that it does not transcend human cognitive possibilities, but this is just one view. Another prominent view that I found equally presented is that it's just creating systems that can carry out cognitive tasks, period, without any reference to humanity or human capacities. And so there is no necessity that that we have to build into our definition of artificial intelligence that it's somehow bound by human capacities. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a. Is there audio? Yeah.
I don't know.
Yes.
Maybe you can put it closer to your.
Hello. Okay. Thank you for the question and the statement. And I mean, I make it very clear. I'm not an IP lawyer. I'm not an ethics expert. I don't like going down that rabbit hole. But my view on this is that IP law is outdated. Copyright is outdated. It's laws that are built and made a long time ago that does not fit in the modern world. They need to change. So these are laws that I think should be rewritten. This is my personal opinion. When it comes to stealing, I don't agree that the AI that's being trained on human material is stealing anything. By that virtue, me opening my eyes, I'm stealing the senses that I get from observing the world. What we don't understand and what we have a hard time comprehending is that we're getting to a point where machines are becoming better at us, at doing some of these cognitive things. I am very bad, again, at remembering specifics. If I had my friend are developing an AI pendant that is omnipresent, that listens to everything that you say. It doesn't store the audio per se, and it's not invasive on anyone's privacy because it doesn't really store what you say either. But it takes the information and crunches it, put it in a multi-dimensional space, and then anytime you want, you can talk to it, interact with it, like your right side brain. Is this infringement? Is this theft? I don't think so. It's just that we have tools now that are far better and exceeding our own capabilities in, for example, memory. So we're just going to have to figure out a way to agree on a pathway forward. These things are out. They're not going to get back into their bottles. And if we decide in Europe, for example, to put them back in a bottle, other countries won't. So whether we like it or not, it's a little bit like the Luddites. We're just going to have to figure out a way to solve these things. We're forced to adapt, unfortunately. The people that invented the tractor didn't want to cause any harm to the farmers, right? They wanted to help the farmers. Ultimately, they did harm the farmers short term and maybe even long term, as we're seeing now in Europe with a lot of angry farmers. But
a lot of truckers as well.
A lot of truckers as well. So there's consequences to our inventions that might be less desirable. And some of the consequences to these developments that we're seeing with machine learning and ultimately large language models, for example, there are some unwanted consequences, but we just need to figure them out. History just shows us that, bad things happen and we have to adapt.
Right? Yeah.
I can give you the mic back.
I believe there are two strands of opinions on this. And one of them is this is just model looking at something, and somehow the model is like the abstract thing. Model is, you could look at it as a compression algorithm in a sense. So who has the right to take our logos and graphic designs and compress them and then interpolate between them, simplifying a little bit, and generate new things. No, they don't. And you might say IP law is outdated. Yeah, I would agree, but it's the current law we have.
Sure.
And we should, stick for it for the time being. Maybe we should redefine it in the view of these technologies and us as humanities wanting to use them. But currently, to me, it looks like there are large corporations making good use of, let's say, a loop in the law.
I think that's a fair point, and actually I commend you for taking this discussion. A few things to unpack is that right now corporations, it's easy to say that corporations doing this, and that's fair because it's quite expensive to do these things. The training cost is on experience curve. If anyone knows what an experience curve is, it's how fast something is reducing in price. And if we look at Moore's law, we see a doubling in compute power every 2.2 years. If we see the cost of solar and the decrease of solar, we see a recline in reduction in a similar vein. So every 2 years, it becomes roughly half the price. If we plot the Moore's law curve on DNA sequencing, we see that DNA sequencing bet Moore's law by a factor of like 100. And if we look at AI in a similar vein and we see the training cost, AI is now faster than DNA sequencing and losing cost of training. So within the next 5 years, you'll be able to train a pretty decent-sized model if you are a company with €100,000 revenue. Like a small one-person company can train their own model. So then it all becomes about data. How do you have provenance in data? Who owns the data? And that's where I think a new IP law needs to come in place. An IP law that takes into consideration ownership and distribution. So how can we solve for that? But I still want to stress that I do firmly believe that allowing a computer to watch something and learn similar to how I learn is not breaking the law. The problem is that the computer can do it at scale, and I cannot. If I try to do what a computer does, I'm going to get lobotomized, and I'm going to get brain injury. It's called, in fair terms, it's like I'm being put on a training camp, right? And someone is trying to torture me. So I can't take the data feed that a computer can take as a human.
All right. Yeah. There's one more question.
Okay, thank you. Absolutely understand. Hi. The questions regarding authorship or copyright. However, I would like to ask you for your opinion addressing different topic. And in graphic design, the development was possible to make and rapidly increase regarding technological innovations, like from metal type to photo typesetting, from photo typesetting to digital type, from digital type to virtual type. And I see AI as a great opportunity for creative forces to empower our capability to do work. And my question would be, do you think that if we use and utilize AI as a helper in order to research, in order to check on different variations very quickly, and to find our own way, how we can develop the compositions and solutions, wouldn't that create another space, time space, which we seeking every day, being pressed by timelines and deadlines, and give us more peace and freedom in order to really create?
Well, I'm not from the design or graphical design background, but it helps. Simply said, it helps us to iterate quickly, to enhance our work, to come up with new ideas. So I feel it's just another shift.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think the fact that we can do things at scale and then classify at scale and We can argue whether or not we're getting averages out of it or not, but I think task-based future basically around all of this, where whatever you need done, whether it's in graphic design or not, you're just going to have amplitude of help. It's like funny, people are like, oh, you're going to get a clone. Like, yeah, I'm going to get a clone. I'm going to get probably 1,000 clones. Why get one? If I can get one, it means I can get many. So I think in the end, it's just going to be very strange, the future that we're going to have. And it's not a science fiction-based future. It's basically, it's on the doorstep. It's just about how do we manage it. But I think it's a fair point. Like, remove the mundane and focus on the things that we like. Maybe some people like the mundane. That's fair. That if you like rotoscoping, for example, keep doing it.
All right.
Fine.
You want to add something to that? So I would ask again for getting my computer on screen, if possible, for the direction. And I have two things to play, and we might have already talked about them, but I just want to share it anyway. As I spoke with past speakers, for example, with Peter Esseni, who was here 2 years ago, and with Tim Rodenbrocker, and they sent me their questions for the discussion panel, so I just wanted to share with you as well.
Hello, my name is Peter Esseni. I'm a visual effects supervisor and creative director, just sneaked out from the set. I did a talk at Mouvo about 2 years ago about screen graphics and the moon landings, amongst many other things. And I have a question about AI that the panel might be capable of answering. And the question would be, what do they think about the legal implications of AI usage in films, in commercials? What does it mean that currently there is no copyright protection existing for products created by AI? I wish I could be there, enjoy, have some fun, and thanks a lot.
Maybe we can.
Can I say
Yeah?
regarding legal protection? So, if you train on your data, right? If you're a company and you have a lot of data and you train specifically on your data, there is legal protection. If you're using a general model that's trained on a general available open source data set, like Leon 5 or some of the big image data sets that are out there, there are no legal protection. So the tools, the things that we can build with these things do have protection if you own them from end to end. It's just the general things that it's like, oh, do I own a Google search or not? No, of course not. So I think this question is a bit flawed as well, because like if you own it, then you can have protection.
All right, and then I will just play the one from Tim Rodenbrocker, who was in the discussion panel last year. Here physically, you can, if you want, you can watch the last year's one on YouTube. There's a whole panel recording for free, and I'll just put Tim on the screen as well. Sorry about the sound. I don't know if that's my problem with the computer, but yeah, let's stick to it.
Hi everyone, this is Tim Rodenbroecker. I'm a creative technologist and creative coding educator based in Barcelona in Spain, and I had the honor to speak at the Mouvo Festival last year, 2023, and also be a participant at the panel. 1 year after the AI panel at Mouvo, this is kind of a update maybe, and I have bad news because I didn't update my opinion. I still have the same concerns about artificial intelligence than just 1 year ago. Maybe you've watched the discussion and you know that I've been quite worried. Also about the attitude of some of the participants. I think it is quite dangerous to think that we have to jump on this AI train as quickly as possible, like a collective FOMO. Everybody has to become like an AI artist these days. I think this is bullshit because first of all, we don't have the technological foundation in Europe, which gives us any security when it comes to digital infrastructures. And the more complexity we build, the more we are dependent on others. I think this is a problem, and we missed to embrace technology in general in the last fundamental things like programming and understanding how all these technologies work. we missed that in the last 40 years, and we were very slow. And just to say, wow, now is the moment because it becomes easy to jump on this hype train, I think that this is not really, doesn't make any sense to me. So we don't have the resilience, we don't have the infrastructures, and I think we should more look at, let's say, lower level technologies, which are actually amazing, and try to build something that actually is stable and is sustainable instead of just jumping on a hype train. I hope this makes sense. I'm excited to hear your opinions on this. Of course, I will follow the discussion, and yeah, thanks for inviting me. Bye-bye.
This is Paul Rand. In 1 year when we visit, he will have fully embraced generative AI. Jokes aside, he has a very fair point. There is a large of, I think we've discussed this now multiple times, like there is concerns, but the genie is out of the bottle. So what do you do? Are you an ostrich and put the head in the sand? You have to take this head on. And how we take it is obviously like he's saying, like, do we just no, hands off, we focus on some other things, but then what happens with the rest of the world? How do we stay competitive, and how do we meet this? We cannot, it feels like he's afraid of conflict, right? And unfortunately, we cannot back down. Like I just don't see a pathway for that. That's my take.
Right. I would ask maybe like for other opinions as well.
Well, I agree. There is no way back. It's not. There's no question if we will use. We all will use that, but there is a question when you start using it. You cannot be like in the industry and not using it. Well, you can, but you will be something like. You really need to come up with the value. So now everyone has a streaming platform in a mobile phone and listen to the music. But there is still you can still buy vinyl player, right? So yeah, you can do it old way, old style, and maybe there will be people who want to buy or want to buy from you or follow you, but the majority is turning that way. So,
all right. Tomáš, do you have any thoughts on
maybe
jumping on the bandwagon?
Just a general. I mean, I already, I guess, indicated my suspicion of too much regulation, and regulation usually comes after the fact and it does not keep up with developments and so on. But maybe I would just voice, I guess, a point about like how these, let's say, committees that come up with regulations, how they work in general. People are flown from a number of people who don't know each other, right? Are flown from several different countries, let's say, to Brussels for a few hours, where they are under extreme time pressure to come up with some agreement on some regulation, and so they end up agreeing on something very general, using very general words, and so this applies to a number of fields, not just regulating AI, but yeah. So I'm kind of like suspicious of too much of this. Yeah.
All right. So can I ask a little bit of an interactive question here? Like, there's a few people in the audience. How many of you have a 10-year-old phone that you use daily? Hands up. 10-year-old phone. Strong man. How many of you have a 5-year-old phone that you're using daily? How many of you have a 1-year-old phone or less? So we're in the 2 years old. 2 years old. All right. So most of you have a device on you that you use daily that is like 2 years old or less. If we compare this to vinyl, which is a nice thing to do, I think I compare things with tractors, which is a nice thing to do. But by the end of the day, we're talking about technology. So why would you use a 10-year-old thing There's one person that had a 10-year-old phone. I want to hear, why are you using a 10-year-old phone? So it's like
Fair enough.
Okay, that's fine. But we can all agree that then the general public and the majority will not use a 10-year-old phone. So if we have AI as the latest and greatest, and everything gets infused whether we like it or not, it's behind the scenes. We call it a hype bandwagon or not. Like, if everyone else around you starts using these tools and get an unfair advantage by doing so, 2x, 5x, 10x, whatever the output increases. By the way, when someone increases their output, something also happens financially, right? They accelerate away from you in terms of financial compensation. If I can do 5 times more work, if I do client work, I can have 5 times more clients, I can earn 5 times as much. So now there's a financial incentive for people to start accelerating as well. And if you still want to be that person that not try to use these tools and not bend them to your advantage, it's going to be unfair all over the place, not just in terms of how you work. That's why it's so important to understand that the genie is out of the bottle. And the things that we need to try to agree on is, how do we stay relevant? How can we impose new laws that helps us collectively, not just a few, not just an elite group of people, but everyone collectively to move forward as a group. This is a human problem, not an individualist problem, not a country problem. It's not a regional problem. It's something that affects everyone.
All right. I have maybe like a bit of connected question to that. Like 2 months ago or something like that, there was a bit of a controversy that several companies used generative AI output in their campaigns, and especially it was Wacom who's actually creating hardware for creatives, and they used in their commercials a dragon that was made by AI, and there was quite of a big discussion why especially this company is using just generative AI image, and they apologized for it, and they've put it down. And I wanted to ask, is there a certain shame for an artist using generative AI and claiming it's your work?
Adobe is here, Adobe is present. Adobe makes these tools, right? They put these AI tools in their suite, and Adobe is the world leader in creative software. If they are endorsing us to use these tools, then I would say it's up to the artist to use them or not. Wacom taking a stand backwards, I think it's a fair thing to do. Like if a company does something and then people get mad about it, and if you don't listen to your customers, your clients, it could be damaging to your brand. But then likewise, they will, in the end, do more of this. It's just going to take some time. It's like sometimes things get introduced too fast, and then people push back, and sometimes we introduce too much and people push back. Like this viscosity in society, and I'm happy about this. I'm happy that there is a break, that there is this almost like invisible layer of goo everywhere in society. So when we introduce something, even if it's super powerful, it just takes time for it to permeate through. So I think the things that we're talking about are very now, and it's easy to forget where we were 2 years ago and where we're going 2 years into the future. So, I don't know, yeah.
Nothing to add here.
No? And you, Tomáš, I was curious.
Yeah,
do you think that there would be any shame for an artist, common, that or that the usage of generative AI nowadays might be something that an artist would be ashamed of? That you would
ashamed?
Yeah. That's what I felt from the whole discussion about when the company used the images, that it's that because I felt like, yeah, they used it because they can. So, but I wouldn't be in the discussion just blaming them. So I thought that there was like in the creative industry there's a big shift towards that. It's shameful that they are using generative AI instead of a real artist or illustrator.
It's weird. That would never cross my mind. Like, they should be shamed. Yeah.
All right.
Changing gears.
I think we can have one or two last questions in the audience if somebody wants to raise a hand. Yeah, so we can get there a mic.
Hello? I don't know if it's working. Should I just
Yeah.
do it like this?
I don't know if.
Hello?
Maybe, yeah.
Oh. Okay, sorry. Hi. I guess this question is kind of related to what you were just talking about. Do you think that an artist could get the same level of satisfaction using AI to create art rather than a more hands-on and longer process? So, for example, with industrialization, artists became less involved because there was mass production, and a lot of philosophers or theorists were saying that there's less satisfaction in your work, so morality was lower. Do you think the same thing could happen with AI, with art?
You are an artist.
Yeah. I think there will be a huge kind of pushback against all of this where, look at me, I love AI, and as much as I do that, I also work physically with my hands. It's like a very huge contrast to sitting in front of the computer and typing words to generate things. I think what it means to be human in this world is to do all of that stuff, like crafty things, spending time, looking in, understanding your head. Look, if everything goes right with this stuff, we're going to be, in generative art aside and large language models aside, if we can use AI to greater good for humanity, look at AlphaFold from DeepMind, for example. It's a great example of something that's incredibly helpful for the scientific community and for medicine. If we look at the bigger things that AI can do and kind of step out of this, we now ended, we kind of got stuck in this ethics hole. If we look at the greater things that AI can do, and then what that will mean for us, it means that we'll free up a lot of time from everyone, not just creatives. And truly, if you're a human, you are creative, even if you're not working with it. We all have creative minds. And if I need to work less and I need to leisure more, I would ultimately end up doing more with my hands. I will garden more, I will create more, this is what it means to be human, whether or not it has intrinsic value, whether or not it has monetary value. I would love to just fiddle with things every day for the rest of my life without having to think about money. I would have no problem doing that. The current state of the world is that we live in a society where to exist, you need to make money, and to make money, you need to work. You provide value, and when you provide value, you get rewarded with coins that we all agree have some value, and you use those to stay afloat. In the future of abundance, when AI or machine learning or whatever it might be helps us uplift from this drudgery of a life in reality, right? Like many of us do not like our jobs. Here it might be a bit different because creative people usually tend to do what they love. Most people don't. Most people go to work and consider it being something that you just have to do to make a living. If that were to change, I think the betterness for humanity is we can't comprehend how much better we would have and how much more we would do with our hands. I think for my kids, for example, the one thing I wish I can help them with is to know what it means to truly know oneself and to truly be present and not focus on specific information retrieval. Like the way I went to school, the way I learned maths, the way I learned history, it's all about memorization, learning specific things, en route, just having that data. I want my kids to be comfortable in their own bodies. I want them to feel that they own their spacecraft in this world. It's one place you cannot run from, right? And that's your head. You can move countries, you can move apartments, you can move jobs, but you cannot vacate your own head. So that's the number one thing, I think, that if we do something good with computers and machines, we can amplify those things regardless of monetary value, regardless of remuneration in terms of coins. I hope that answers your questions, and thank you for it.
Maybe I would add that there is, hello?
Yeah, for hopefully...
There is space in art, within art, for, I mean, for instance, so at the art school where I teach at the local Academy of Fine Arts, I think most, I mean, if we confine ourselves to just visual arts, so most students, I think, are still interested in creating, let's say, just images, right, by traditional non-digital means. And I would say that from what I've noticed, right, that those students are interested not creating just images, but they are partly attracted to these traditional methods, like using pigment, right, on canvas, for instance, because they are also attracted to the very physicality of these materials, right? So there is place for that, for these methods within art. And then on the other hand, I guess people who want to move on to, let's say, what we might in general call digital arts, creating images by digital means, I think there might be there has already been an explosion of creativity, and there are some added qualities. So maybe there is less or no physicality, but then on the other hand, there could be, I think this is part of the definition of digital arts, there is interactivity, right? So these are not often static images, but moving images that the user can interact with, right? So yeah, I think there is space for both of these. I mean, these are just two extremes, right? There is everything in between, right? Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, there is a question.
Yeah, so well, last question, because we already run out of time, so we can get there. Yeah.
Thanks.
There.
I was raising my hand for quite a while. It's hard to be tiny and small. So basically, first of all, thank you for coming to Prague and opening this interesting discussion. And my question is more about, like, I'm an introvert and AI enthusiast. I love ChatGPT and I use it as my best friend. I love interacting with it, with Alexa as well. And what I realized, AI is actually a safe space for sharing your feeling, and it's partially replaced my therapist. I would like to ask you your opinion, because we can see that Tinder and COVID changed the people interaction very fast. So how do you think how AI will change communication and connection between people in the future?
So I am the co-founder of a therapist app called Sensive, which, funny enough, uses AI. And it didn't start that way. It was more of a self-reflection app. The reason why it came into fruition is because I lost my dad in 2020 due to mental health issues, and the way I channeled that grief was to try to build something to help others. And then my co-founder lost his dad a year later in similar vein. So now, when obviously learned a lot about AI and how to work with language models, we figured out that exactly what this young woman is saying here, that it replaces the need for a therapist, or it augments the need for a therapist. You might see a therapist less often, or you see it at the same cadence, but the value you get out of your therapist is like 10x, because you have all this in-between communication that happens with an unbiased entity that never tires of you, that never questions you, that is not angry with you, that listens. And this is, again, like we anthropomorphize, call it a person or it or him or she. It's a machine, but the machine is very capable of making us safe, feel safe, and be able to open up. maybe in more ways that we're not capable to do with our human friends. Because human friends, they have their own issues. You never know. Like when you meet someone, they might be having a bad day, maybe they lost a family member, maybe something happened. You never know what people are going through. We don't have this issue with AI. So I think the relationships we're going to form with machines are going to be very valuable. And I don't know what will happen. We know that in, for example, Japan, they're way further ahead culturally with this, where it's legal to marry an AI, it's legal to have a relationship with AI, and people are having this. This is not fan fiction, this is not science fiction. And we can see that usually what happens when a country is early in something is could be like a trend, it could be this can happen in many places. And I do think that is exactly what's happening in Japan. So, relationships, will they change? Yes. Will they change fast? Probably. Yeah. And look, I have some insights into this, right? I have an app with a few thousand users, so I know from talking to people that this is true, or happening at least.
All right. Anybody wants to ask?
I love this topic. We don't have time for this, but only very recently this has opened a new discussion, I think, within, let's say, in general philosophy of AI, but specifically ethics of AI, these friendships with AI, right? Whether there can be such a thing. And I'm very much, I liked what I've been just hearing. I think this can solve a lot of problems. I mean, what's wrong with having from your early childhood best friend that knows you perfectly, that you cannot have with a human friend, for instance, who helps you grow up and deal with your issues and so on, right? So I'll just leave it at that. So, yeah.
I will just add and sums up. I agree. Another great application of technology we have, but I want to highlight that you shouldn't lost touch with real world, because you can model whatever you want. If you want a friend or AI friend that is crazy, you can model that. You can say that be crazy, do these and these things, and you can just happen to be stuck in the world you create, and then these can cause problems in real life. You go to school, you go to work, and if you create persona or avatar that is like you or as you wish, and you don't have conflicts with it, it's difficult if you get stuck in the perfect world you model. When you come to the real world scenarios where you have conflicts, different opinions, and so on. So keep in touch with real world.
All right. So I would like to finish this discussion in a not a typical way with you would end up with answers, and I would like to end up with more questions, actually. And I would like each of you, if you can, because I believe there's going to be a lot of debates in the evening over a beer or anything. If you could throw in one question to the audience that people might think about or chat about when they are having a beer at the after party, maybe. Sorry, I didn't prepare you for this.
Yeah, I heard that that word from Linus, its value. I think it's central, one of the central words in this discussion, because as Linus said, that imagine that you are an artist and you create art of bananas, and Linus said that he can, in 1 minute, he can generate 100,000 of bananas. So think of a value you bring, you create. Think of the way, or can it be replaced by AI or some other technology? is that valuable enough in these days? And if it's not, try to come up with another value you can bring with your work. So I'm not sure if it's a question, but something to think about.
Right?
Okay, so I expected there would be maybe more discussion on this panel of AI creativity, so I'll just leave it to the audience and I'll give a hint because I think there is still a lot of human exclusionary attitude, and maybe this is some kind of hangover from the age of romanticism when we thought that humans and only humans have some kind of like spark of a genius that enables creativity. But I think this is a philosophically interesting issue, like whether we learn something about ourselves, including our creativity, when we are pondering AI creativity. And it seems to me that, but you can discuss that among yourselves, right? This is just a suggestion. So, so I wonder whether most of us are no better as far as our creativity is concerned than AIs, let's say generative AI, because most of us, right? Most of us just seen tons of images, and then if you're an artist, if you're a graphic designer, you just do some kind of permutations of these images that you've seen. That's exactly what generative AI does. So you're not better than that. So let's not kid ourselves that we are somehow special. Maybe we have not had AIs yet because they've been with us just for a short while. We haven't had generative AI Picasso or somebody who would break all the rules and start new paradigm. Perhaps, correct me if I'm wrong, perhaps we haven't had seen that yet, but when it comes to like more usual artistic and graphic design kind of production, it's, I mean, we are no better than, you know, they've seen millions of images, they've been trained on millions of images, so they might be even more advanced in permutations of these images, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good food for thought for the evening. And what about you,
Are we
Linus?
really running out of time? When
Yeah,
is the next?
we're 12 minutes out of time, but
Okay.
bring your question and we end up with that.
Well, we could have gone on for a long time. Question. I've had some time to think here. I think existentially, I would like people to consider the one question that I ended my talk with, like for you, and truly for you, if you have a deep thought about it, what does it mean to be human? Like, try to ponder on that. You don't need to have a specific answer. You can probably philosophize, have a long debate with yourself and others, maybe over a beer later. I'm willing to have a long debate about it or conversation. So what does it mean to be human?
Yeah, perfect. So let's end up with this one. And thank you very much for being the panel. Thank you very much for the questions online. And yeah, see you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you.